I actually am in Phoenix, Arizona. I was here for the weekend for the Jaime Munguia John Ryder fight. I then go to Vegas in a couple of days for Conor Benn's fight. He takes on Peter Dobson back at welterweight, which I think is interesting. His last fight was at super welterweight. He's now back at his natural weight class against a Peter Dobson that many of us probably won't know. Undefeated fighter in America, has fought at the lower level, 16-0, 33 years of age. So he's a solid opponent for Conor Benn, George. Conor Benn's story is crazy, isn't it, in the last couple of years, what's happened with the collapse of that Chris Eubank Jr. fight, not getting licensed to fight over here in the UK where he does need to fight. He's fighting in America. Obviously, this one's at the Cosmopolitan. I don't know how many fans are going to be there to watch it. But they do need to sort out this license situation. They need to sort it out because, look, I'm happy Conor Benn's fighting, which I think is the most important, but he does need to fight in the UK.
Yeah, well, he does. If he wants to continue building sort of his Benn brand, and it was phenomenal before, before the drug tests came out as such. But maybe it's not just Conor Benn, and there's been other fighters that are capable of it or culpable of it as well. But you are like, I don't know what the answers are. I don't know where we're at. And then sooner or later, people are going to be like, what's going on? And this has kind of not gone under the radar. We're covering it here today, this Conor Benn fight, but there's not been a big excitement, I don't think. And is that because there shouldn't be? Because they're trying to just keep him busy until they can resolve what's going on in the UK? So they want this to fly under the radar, or is it not? So, he has a value, and he's shown that he's a good fighter, Ben, and because of that, he's still being managed and promoted, and he's fighting out in the States. He's headlining the Cosmopolitan, which is exciting. I'm not sure how many tickets will be that are sold, as you say, Addy, but it's exciting. Headlining Vegas. I mean, I know you're hiding out in Arizona. You've had enough Vegas nights, I'm sure, but it's exciting. And he's in there with Peter Dobson, who's undefeated. He's 16-0. And he's got some good wins on his record. He's not a household name here in the UK, but I'm sure they've done their due diligence, and this is the right fight, they believe, for Ben at this stage. Because and what is it? Is it a keep busy fight until they can sort out
this is it, right?
The Eubank fight, or what? I don't know.
There's so many questions to be asked, and you're right about it. Should be bigger than it is. I mean, for every UK fighter, right? You're growing up, you want to fight in Vegas, you want a headline, right? You want to see your name on a billboard. He's kind of got that, obviously on a smaller scale, and it should feel bigger than it is. But you are correct. No one's really talking about it. No one's talking about the fact that Conor Benn's fighting on the weekend. Maybe it's the opponent. Maybe it's because other fights are going on. Obviously, Boatsy Aziz has taken a lot of the boxing limelight, but something needs to happen. Whether it be a bigger name, because again, we don't really know who Peter Dobson is, or the fact he's not fighting in the UK. I feel like we've kind of hit this wall with Conor Benn, and something needs to give now. Whether it be a case of Conor coming to the UK and sorting his stuff out with the British Boxing Board of Control, something needs to give. I don't know, a bigger name or fighting back in the UK. Right now, we're kind of at a stalemate.
Well, I think it really splits people down the middle, Eddie. Well, because Conor Benn essentially, I assume, could come back, serve a backdated sort of ban, because he hasn't fought in the UK that long. But then that is essentially him admitting fault, but he doesn't want to do that. And the board won't relent on it either. So it depends on who, no one has all the facts, so it's impossible to take a side. But maybe, ideally, we can figure out something can get done, and then we can see Ben back in the UK, and preferably in a massive fight, because it's a big name with an interesting personality and a very exciting fighting style. So he's missed here in the UK while he's not fighting, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I think you look at the sort of stars coming through, and there aren't that many. I have to be honest, there aren't as many stars as there was when you were fighting. It felt like there was so many household names. Unfortunately, that isn't the case anymore, and he is one, obviously, household name. When the Ben Eubank fight was announced, feels like a couple of years ago, and that was ages ago. Where were you on it, and where are you on it now? Like, is there still anything in it? Like, if they were to say Ben Eubank, he gets his license, he fights in the UK against Chris Eubank in the summer, is there any steam in that still?
Well, when the fight was first announced, I thought it was a bit of a mismatch. I mean, I was thinking Eubank's been up at super middleweight. He's been there with big guys. He's fought for world titles, and Ben was a welterweight. I thought it's just a bit of a weird gimmick fight. And then obviously since then, Eubank being back down at middleweight got iced against Smith. So you're like, oh, who knows what's going to happen? He sort of, again, gone and got himself an American coach.
Yeah, they've all done it. I told you, they've all done it.
You got to get yourself an American coach. And then obviously he came in and absolutely flipped the script on what, I thought Eubank was kind of finished. I thought, all right, his punch resistance is gone, or he can't make the weight no more, body's failing him, whatnot. But, I haven't heard a lot coming out of the Eubank camp lately. It seems like he's probably ticking along, bubbling along, waiting for this Conor Benn fight. Ben's, who knows what's happening, but I'm pretty certain by hook or by crook they'll get it done, and it will happen. And will I be excited to see it? I would definitely be tuning in. But I still will struggle to get past the fact that I think it is more of like, there's no rankings, there's going to be no belts, it's just a fight for fight's sake, and these two guys are very different in terms of size. Conor Benn
it means nothing really. I mean, I feel bad saying that, but you're right. That there's a welterweight versus, as you say, a super middle, but now a career middle in Chris Eubank Jr. The size difference is enormous. Before, I think they were able to put restrictions on Eubank, like rehydration clauses. He's not accepting that anymore. So it'll be massive on the night. And I don't know, Conor Benn hasn't fought anyone of note to even tell us he could do a job on Eubank. So it's a strange one. I'll watch it, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll tune in, I'll probably be working on it. But in terms of my want for it, I want to see Conor Benn against good welterweights and steady rise until we see where he is, as opposed to these kind of just weird fights all over the place, which I just don't think have no value. They don't. Even if he ices Peter Dobson the weekend, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, no, I agree. Eubank, was he 30? I reckon he's about 34 now. So he's at the tail end of his career. You can take these sort of fights, whereas Conor Benn hasn't had them fights yet. He hasn't fought for world titles. We haven't found his level yet. He hasn't got to the ceiling yet. So, it doesn't make sense for me for a Conor Benn to still be chasing the Eubank fight if you're thinking about anything else apart from, a good paycheck. But
talking of welterweights, it's prize fighter, right? And the prize is the money. Talking of good welterweights, this is on the very extreme of good welterweights. Terence Crawford, there was something today in the papers that he will fight Canelo in September. Canelo will fight Jamal Charlo in May, and then it will be, which is crazy, but it will be Terence Crawford versus Canelo in September. Crawford, I'm guessing, moving up. Maybe Canelo moving down a couple of pounds to 164. What do you make of that one? Obviously, that's slightly different. I mean, that's Ben Eubank on steroids, isn't it? That's something different.
Yeah. I mean, surely Canelo's too big still.
Surely.
Like, too big. He's been this big for so long. I mean, how can you ever go against Crawford? But you're like, surely not. Surely not. I mean, Charlo last time out, I got kind of sucked in. I was thinking, what has he seen that none of us have? He wants. I know he's big, and when you see him stand next to each other, he towers over Canelo. But even though he's 2 weight divisions lighter, I'm like, he probably has to dry out a lot. He's probably going to walk around. He's not going to be as heavy as Canelo on the night, but he's a big. Maybe he's seen something. He knows something. He knows something we don't. And then the fight starts, and then within the course of a round, you're like, okay, no. Canelo switched him off, put him in his box. The bigger guy beats the littler guy here tonight. And I mean, Crawford's won a world title at lightweight, I think.
He has.
Yeah, I mean, but stranger things have happened, I think.
It'll be enormous. That fight happens in Vegas. I mean, pay-per-view wise, that breaks a lot of records. I mean, Crawford versus Canelo will be just stupid. But anyway, look, don't forget Conor Benn versus Peter Dobson live on DAZN this weekend. It's actually in Vegas mid-afternoon, so I think that's early evening in the UK. So you can have that and then obviously move on to Buatsi Aziz.